Hi everyone! Today I'm doing a fairly quick video based off of my most recent blog post on my main blog published on the 23rd of December. This is about the top 5 writing compliments which have, meant the most to me over the years. Yes, I have not forgotten that the main bread and butter of my channel are books and writing, even though my primary focus throughout the month of December so far has been like doing the ink vent calendar, but I, have found some time to squeeze in a couple of, writing and bookish videos. And so over the years, I've gotten some writing compliments over and over again, to the point that many people consider these things among my trademarks. Another compliment was a one-time thing which meant a great deal to me, and one is a more recent recurring compliment. Receiving the same compliments time and again for many years can improve a writer's confidence and encourage her or him to focus on that strength, thus making future works even better. And I mean, not to say like I'm guilty of like super pride or anything like that, but it does, make you feel good when people say that. They're noticing, oh, this is something I'm really good at. Oh, they like what I'm doing. And that's like positivity is like so much like more uplifting to a writer than like negativity. Like particularly a few years ago, I saw this, like it was totally unhinged. It wasn't even that she gave me a 1-star review on Goodreads for one of my books. And yeah, of course it hurts everyone normal's pride when they get a 1-star review for a book, but it wasn't like so much that. It was just like an unhinged rant, like, oh, why didn't you do things the way I would have written them or the way I would have done alternative history? And I don't like alternative history anyway. And like she was making all these like bizarre like comments about my motivations and personal beliefs that were like based on nothing. We only had like one very brief superficial interaction on Instagram, and from that she pretends like, oh, she's my best friend and she knows everything about me. And so getting a compliment on your writing, it really like helps to lift you up, gives you like confidence, like, yeah, I'm doing something right. People really enjoy this. I should like keep doing this and focusing on this strength instead of this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and you're a shameless murder apologist, and oh, this character is definitely a self-insert, even though like that's sure as hell news to me, and I particularly because I created that character. And anyway, let's start getting down with the actual compliments. Number 1. Since I was a teen, many people have told me they love my dialogues. The university seniors heading the creative writing club at my first high school also said my books could easily translate into screenplays since they're so dialogue heavy. I've never aspired to copy, sorry not sorry, the 19th century style of endless paragraphs of descriptions. Like, seriously, like I always skipped over that stuff. Dialogue is so much more fun to write and helps to move the story and character development along faster and more entertaining. I mean, I'm not saying I never do descriptions or things like that, but it's, I guess, like a more of a weakness of mine I've had to learn to work on and like slowly strengthen over the years to, part of world building. I don't like neglect it entirely, but I still, dialogue is the thing I prefer to like focus on. It just comes naturally to me instead of like, oh, I'm going to describe the house they live in or the place they're visiting for like 5 pages, and I'm using $1,000,000 thesaurus words and using lots and lots of purple prose, and oh, I'm going to pretend I have an MFA and I'm going to like pretentiously describe their ball gowns and an opera set and the tea sandwiches and the architecture. Dialogue is like particularly fun, and it helps people's like characters to come out, the way they talk, the words they use, like the way they choose to express themselves, just like funny things like that. And people also have, serious conversations. And so like paragraphs of description, they're great for like setting the scene and doing some world building, establishing backstory, whatever, like information that's important to like mentally picturing the house or something, or the types of clothes they wear. But that's nothing compared to, dialogue, which actually moves the story along. I don't understand writers who feel like, oh, I'm going to copy like a Regency or a Victorian writer by like filling it up and filling it up and filling it up with paragraph upon paragraph of just basically like boring backstory info dump descriptions. Number 2, my food scenes. So many people have said they love my descriptions of food in holiday, birthday, party, and celebration scenes, and that it makes them hungry. I've always had a very hearty appetite, as evidenced by how I have settled into a lower plus size range. I also love watching Food Network, and particularly for like writing about the Middle Ages in my alternative history about Dante and Beatrice. It's been fun to research the kinds of food they wrote in the Middle Ages, and then to describe the banquets and the holiday like feasts they're having at Christmas tide and Easter and like other various celebrations and birthday parties and like wedding feasts, because people in the Middle Ages, I mean, some of the foods are similar to today, but some of them are like completely different. We would not recognize them at all, or you might only see it at like Ren Fair or something like that, or it would be in a totally different form, or like we know people might eat this, but like it horrifies us today. Like, who today is going to eat a swan or a peacock, particularly cooked in its own feathers? It's kind of gross, and it also sheds a light on the culture and society people come from, and like religion a little bit too. What we eat kind of reflects who we are, and that's one thing I just love about food. And it makes me hungry a little bit too when I'm writing and researching about it. And I have like a big I don't know about big is a good word, but at least I guess a medium sized folder of images I virtually collected of like vintage recipes from magazines and advertisements for food and other like food related images. I just love writing about like food scenes, and of course like Halloween candy, my favorite holiday. That's fun to write about and describe too. Number 3, don't worry, I'm not going to get like so any graphic at all. I don't want to get bounced off of YouTube, but this is number 3 is my first time sex scenes. A lot of people who have made this compliment say they write sex scenes with seasoned lovers, so they never gave much thought to depicting the unique feelings and experience of virgins. Even if both people are experienced, or only one is a virgin, the first time together is very different from the way they might be after 10 plus years of marriage, or even if they're not, marriage isn't in the picture, that's not something they're interested in. Like, oh, they've just been like casually having sex with like short-term boyfriends and girlfriends, and like one night stands with dates for the last like 3 to 5 years. Oh, it's no biggie. Like, it's just, I don't feel any emotional component. It's just something I'm supposed to do. It's like a totally different dynamic with people who are like being like together for the first time, and that actually like, means something to them, instead of, oh, this is old hat, no big deal, it's just like putting on a hat or something like that. Readers also appreciate how my first time sex scenes are realistic and emotional. Instead of falling into the trope of inexperienced virgins having a mind-blowing first time without a shred of awkwardness and vulnerability, and like even if they do have fun, they reach the spending point, as they would say in Victorian erotica, it's probably because they've done a little like research, like from reading about things, not necessarily like watching porn, which is like completely unrealistic and extremely exploitative of women, like traffics women, and like some men too, just has like a lot of essay on film, particularly with minors, like trafficking hubs, shut that thing down. But anyway, that's a whole thing for another topic. But like if they do have like a really good first time, it's probably because they've done like reading, and they've tried their best to like copy what they have read about in the abstract, instead of because, oh, it's just automatically going to be awesome, because like who would want to read about something that sucks, and just, well, I don't want to get too graphic, but I think you like kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about for this one. Number 4, my blogging buddy Sarah Wesson, who sadly had to step back from blogging after pancreatitis. She last regularly blogged, I think it was 2017. I was just looking back at her blog, and then she came back to write an entry or two, or in 2019, but that was basically just an update on her hospital stays and health struggles. Unfortunately, she has not blogged since then. I really hope she's doing okay, or if maybe she is recovered, but just felt maybe like blogging or writing isn't what I want to do, or I'm just like off of social media for now. My health comes first. And so anyway, Sarah, like after she stepped back from her blogging after pancreatitis, she once gave me perhaps the greatest writing compliment ever regarding my use of present tense. She'd been reading snippets from A Dark Forest for months. I still have yet to do a video about that book. It was so super long, even by my standards. I had to publish it as one book in 4 volumes, but she had been reading it for months, but only when she read the scene of Vanessa being shot by the NKVD As she and her kids are escaping the USSR over the creek-like River Boog, did she realize I was writing in present tense. I mean, I was astonished. Like, wow, that was really. I don't. It's hard to find words for like how much that meant to me. That was like, wow, I was really that good at writing present tense that you wouldn't even like notice it until that one particular scene, like one little thing made you notice it. That's what we should all strive for when we're writing present tense. Third person past tense is the classic, standard, traditional default for a reason. Surprise, surprise. When a writer chooses to deviate from that, the tense and or POV should effortlessly blend into the overall story instead of awkwardly standing out in every line. I 100% stand by my conviction, sorry not sorry, that many newer and younger writers don't know how to write present tense well and are only using it because it's trendy. Ooh, gotta write, doing YA, gotta do first person present tense no matter what, and they think it's expected, not because it's what that particular story screams for. Same with first person, whether it's past or present tense. I mean, I've not been shy about saying like my eyes, they kind of glaze over when I see first person present tense for the last like 10 plus years now. And even just regular first person, whether it's past or present, it just seems like so overdone. And it was a huge surprise to me when like first person turned out to be like, it felt like the only correct way I could write my alternative history of Dante and Beatrice. I don't think I've yet done a video about why I chose like first person for that particular story, other than like addressing it briefly here and there in other videos. But it like so many times and this isn't really an exaggeration. I've really read books where it just feels like this is how it goes. I do this, I do that, I say this, I say that, I do this, and I do that. I. It's like they're starting every single word with like I or like my, and like it's so awkward and intrusive instead of just blending into the background. Like, believe it or not, you do not have to use first person pronouns in every single sentence if you're writing first person point of view. Like, other things are happening besides I, my, me, mine. It's like I just wish more younger and like newer inexperienced writers understood this and spent more time with the classic traditional like standard default of third person past tense before they start branching out, because when you have experience, like lots of years of grounding in the basics, then you will have like more of a handle on like an inner voice, a sense of, oh, this particular story, it demands to be told in first person, like no other point of view would be just right. Or present tense third person would work really well for this story. I just can't picture the story or the characters at all in the past tense, but you don't really have a good like solid strong handle on that if like all you're familiar with is like using like I do this, I do that, I do this, I say that, I get on the bus, I do this, I go to school. It's like I hate first person present tense. Like 99% of the time there are only a very few examples, for example, where it works, like for example a story told by a very young child, a stream of consciousness type story, a story about a serious topic like bullying or depression, Holocaust memoirs, I guess like stream. I already said stream of consciousness. Like poetry, of course, like a few other things. But like most of the time, like why does a story about like a freaking contemporary high school? Why does that need to be in first person present tense? Why do we need to be like right there in the moment, like heightened drama and tension, if it's just like a freaking shallow, superficial story about boring. It's a high school story and it's a YA contemporary. Like that's just not a really good combination. Sorry, not sorry. I do not apologize for my like hatred of first person present tense, a way oversaturation. Number 5, on a much more serious note. Starting in 2023, many people began complimenting my very late contemporary historical fiction about 9/11. I have a previous video about like why I decided to write it. I haven't yet done part 2 about things to keep in mind. I'll probably be saving that for like this coming anniversary in September of 2025. This particularly means a lot to me because writing that has been very instrumental in helping me to process my long repressed secondary trauma and non-pathological dissociation I only became aware of after watching the 6-part Nat Geo series One Day in America, which I discussed a bit in my a video I did for Mental Health May this year. My intense, raw descriptions of sights, sounds, smells, sensations, and feelings brought readers back to that day and made them feel like they were in the middle of that unfolding terror all over again, like whether they saw it live on TV like I did, or they were, God forbid, like there in person, wherever on the scene they were. These scenes are so intense. I very uncharacteristically preface them with content warnings. And if you know me at all, I do not do trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Oops, almost forgot the trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Oh, and here's a third round of trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. I mean, I know I make fun, but it just seems like so many like Zoomers, they just like overuse it to the point of like parody. I don't think I got into it so much in my Mental Health May video, but I did do some other blog posts for Mental Health May. Perhaps I will turn them into videos at some point. The like overuse of like trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. It actually cheapens like legitimate, real, like psychological triggers and makes them seem like jokes. It's like the boy crying wolf effect. It really makes me angry. And when we like completely avoid triggers like 100% our entire lives, that makes it harder to heal from psychological trauma. But anyway, rant over. These, and so yeah, I mentioned I uncharacteristically preface them with the content warnings. And like many other events in history, the story doesn't end when the actual event does. Survivors still have a lot of physical healing and emotional processing to do, and that's also one of the reasons I appreciate like Holocaust memoirs, that they don't end shortly after the liberation. They show the survivors like returning to life in like the DP camps, or immigrating to a new land, or sometimes even choosing to stay or being forcibly repatriated to their native land. It's not, oh, we were liberated, great, awesome, happy times from now on. There's like a whole new story, like equally as dramatic in some ways, that was just beginning, and other like traumatic and dramatic events, they just don't automatically end just when the actual event itself does. What are the best writing compliments you've ever gotten? Let me know down in the comments. And do you appreciate any of the things I spoke about? Are those things you yourself like to write about or read about, such as like food, or do you prefer dialogue over long-winded, flowery, purple prose silliness that would feel more in place in a Victorian novel? So thank you very much for watching. I will see you very soon. Have a wonderful holiday season, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever other winter holidays you might be celebrating. Bye.